The Boy Scouts of America have two Cherokee area councils, one in Tennessee and the other headquartered in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. In 1909, Reverend John Forbes Mitchell founded the first documented fully uniformed Boy Scout troop in America in Pawhuska, Oklahoma at St. Thomas Episcopal Church. In 1911, to help spread the word about scouting to local boys, the troop hiked from Pawhuska to Bartlesville, and it worked. In 1912, Troop 1 was founded at First Christian Church, becoming the first Boy Scout troop in Bartlesville. In the early days of the BSA, local units were organized by the communities they served, with councils being classified as second class based on being led by volunteers, or first class being led by a professional scout executive. Early city councils in the area were found in Pawhuska, Bartlesville, Nowata, and Vinita. Over time, these community councils were merged, and on January 8, 1920, Bartlesville became a first-class council, eventually serving Craig, Delaware, Nowata, Osage, and Ottawa and Washington counties. In 1925, the council was named Cherokee Council, and in 1936, it became the Cherokee Area Council. On my way back from South Carolina, I made a slight detour and stopped in Bartlesville to meet up with an old friend, John Copeland, who graciously gave me a tour of the Cherokee Area Council Museum that is located in their council office. Let's learn more about the history of the BSA in this edition of Artifact of the Week. Before we get into the museum part, tell me a little bit about this council, the Cherokee Area Council, how big it is, how many kids it serves, what area it covers.
So our council, Cherokee Area Council, number 469, covers, I believe it's 6 counties. So from Osage County, just to the west of us, all the way to the Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri, Kansas line. So pretty much the eastern part of the state of Oklahoma. And across that, we have 2 districts, Osage Hills District, Grand Lake District. And I don't have the exact numbers of what we have right now as far as actual youth and scouters involved. But this council has been one that has been very solid, both not only financially, but also on the membership side. Having been on the executive board for the last several years as VP of program, I have been exposed to the different numbers and the different things that we do. And I think a lot of that boils down to we have good program because we have good training, and we continue to foster training for not only the adults but also for the youth, whether it be for NYLT courses, and then of course encourage them to go out to the summit or to Philmont to go out and participate in NAIL, or then even to go out there and work. We've had, I know, several youth over the last 6 or 7 years that actually have been seasonal staff members at Philmont, and we're fairly close. But back to the council, it is my understanding that the first troop ever, after Lord Baden-Powell actually came up with this whole idea of young men and guiding them through the different things that they would need to know to be good citizens and good men in their communities. The first troop was actually formed in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, which is about 30 miles west of Bartlesville, which is where the council headquarters or office is located. And that troop was founded, I believe, in 1909, which would have been 2 years after the statehood of Oklahoma, which was in 1907. And from then, one thing that's, I think, particularly of interest is a former chief executive of the national office actually originated as a youth from this council. His name was James Tarr. He was actually a member of Bartlesville Cub Pack 1 and Troop 1 later after his Cub tenure, and then got his eagle, went on to be national chief scout executive from 1979 to 1985.
Very cool. So here at the museum, this is in the headquarters, the council headquarters, their office building, open to the public. People can come in and check it out. What are some of the things that they might see when they come here? Tell me about some of these exhibits.
So a lot of the stuff that we have in here, it rotates out. The council office staff do work at changing that out because we have a lot of stuff. We've got everything from Cub Scouts all the way to Exploring Scouts, all the way to obviously Scouts BSA. We've got Jamboree, prior Jamboree, contingent patch designs, patch collections. and also all the contingent members for those different jamborees, as well as, I mean, you can look around the room. We have OA stuff. We have different artifacts that have been found out at our council camp, Captain Flint up in Western Town I mentioned earlier. And then there's other memorabilia that even includes Phil R. Phillips, which notably was a nephew to Wade Phillips. And while I don't know for a fact, I have a sneaking suspicion that Phil might have put a bug in his Uncle Wade's ear with regards to what he had seen scouting do here. And that coupled with what Wade saw from the scouts there in and around what we now know as Philmont, that might have been, at least in my mind it is, a primer to what we now know and call as Philmont.
So if you had to pick something in this room that you really are attracted to or that draws your attention, what would be an artifact that you wouldn't want to miss if it was on display?
Honestly, there's all of it is. In the corner over here is one of the pictures of the first troop, obviously over in Pawhuska. So that's something that's neat, and it's cool to be able to draw that back to just scouting that I know, that I've seen, you know, from being a Cub Scout all the way to Eagle Scout and growing up in this council. Obviously, the Philmont stuff, Philmont is home, not only for me, but, you know, a lot of other people. Worked there, been out there. We met through, you know, working at Philmont, working at Nail together. Probably the Philmont stuff.
Okay.
That's
fair enough. So if you were going to tell anybody that's watching this about why they should come to Bartlesville and check out this museum, what would be the number one draw that you would use for them to come visit?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, having and again, this is my understanding, having the first troop in the United States recognized, chartered by, it was an Episcopal church out of Pawhuska, was the first, what we now know as a chartered organization. That would be, to me, the most compelling reason to come by this office and look at our museum. And like I said, you know, we've got more artifacts and different things behind these display cases that we change out from time to time. And then there's all the time somebody will come up with something that, you know, their family members that passed on. Hey, they came across this and wanted to donate it to the office and put it on display. That's come up several times. And it's just neat to be able to look back at the rich history that this council does present and have, and then just looking towards the future as well.
So if somebody did have stuff that, for example, we get a lot of calls at the museum about donations, but it's not something that we necessarily can accept for a variety of reasons, is that something that they could potentially reach out to your council for?
Yeah, you can go to CherokeeBSA.org, which is our council's website. It is Council 469 in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And it does, like I mentioned earlier, serve Northeast Oklahoma. That has all the contact information from our Scout Executive, Philip Wright, to our administrative staff that we have here, and also our district executives. And I believe it also has some contact information in there for any number of the board members in the key three.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and for the opportunity to learn more about scouting in Oklahoma. If you find yourself in the Bartlesville area, I recommend stopping by the council office and checking out the museum. There's some very cool stuff we didn't talk about or show during the interview. I also asked John who the most famous scout to have come out of that council was, and without hesitation, he said James Tarr. Not many councils out there can make a claim to a chief scout executive that started as a Cub Scout, earned his Eagle rank, and worked his way through as a scouting professional to become the chief. On display here at the National Scouting Museum, we've just added James Tarr's Bronze Wolf Award, presented to him in 1983. The Bronze Wolf is the only award presented by the World Scout Committee and recognizes outstanding service by an individual to the World Scout movement. Tarr is one of 40 Americans to be awarded the Bronze Wolf, with the most recent U.S. recipient being our current Chief Scout Executive, Roger Mosby. Also on display is the medallion presented in 1983 to Margaret Tarr, his wife, in recognition of becoming a Baden-Powell Fellow with the World Scout Foundation. That's all the time we have for this week. Join us next time as we continue to learn more about the BSA through the collection of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.